I'm Bob Wendover, the Daily Decisions Expert. I teach people how to achieve the outcomes they desire through better work and family and life choices. After all, it's the daily decisions that determine our long-term success, isn't it? Now, before we get started, remember to click on the subscribe button and ring that bell. That way you'll be notified when I introduce new insights based on my interviews with more than 3,000 top decision makers. So, let's talk burnout. If there is one topic that seems to come up in my conversations more than any other right now, it is burnout. The people I talk with complain about being constantly tired and not being able to focus and feeling like there's just no end to their fatigue. Maybe you feel that way right now. So why is this? Well, it's because we're forced to make so many more daily decisions than ever before. Let me explain. A few years ago, we never felt as overwhelmed as we do now. Sure, we had our moments when we just got tired of thinking. It might have been after a stressful meeting, or maybe the kids had something traumatic happen and you kind of had to help them think their way through it. Perhaps it was a particularly busy time at work. But it didn't seem to go on day after day after day, did it? You were able to catch your breath. You were able to get away. You didn't take work home with you all the time. You could kind of just crash in front of the TV if you wanted to and let the world do its thing without you. You could disengage for a while and not worry that you were missing out on something. But how has the environment changed? A lot of this is because we're being compelled or forced to make hundreds of unnecessary, what I call micro decisions, such as digital distractions and spam and robocalls. Rather than spending energy focused on the really significant decisions we need to make every day, these nuisances chip away at our reserves bit by bit, don't they? The result of all of this is what social scientists call decision fatigue. So, what is decision fatigue? Well, in simple terms, it's when you make bad choices because your brain is overloaded due to the overwhelming demands of modern life. We've all been there. We settle for things we shouldn't. We give in to silly temptations. We feel like we're pushing through tasks rather than putting a good quality effort into them. We become impatient with people around us for really no reason sometimes. In general, we get fed up with work and family and politics and pretty much anything else where we have to think, right? Now, we also become susceptible to pushy salespeople and endless upsells and the appeals from virtually anybody who's got something to support. And when this happens, we become fearful of making mistakes and spending money we shouldn't and maybe damaging relationships with people or making choices we'll regret over time. In some cases, we just kind of shut down. We stop making decisions. Any decision. And if we do make decisions, even the little ones seem to take so much more effort, don't they? Sometimes we just want to hunker down, maybe even curl up in a ball under the desk. Yeah, I'm just kidding, sort of there. Decision fatigue does not announce itself. There's no flashing lights or sirens. It kind of sneaks up on you as you navigate the day. It can arise after a morning of making lots of decisions. You might go into a meeting full of energy and emerge exhausted because of the disagreements that took place. You might feel fragile just looking at your to-do list with a whole list of everything that needs to get done. And all of this over time becomes cumulative. It adds up, and it eats away at our emotional and physical energy. And sometimes we just climb back into bed, don't we? Now, you can experience decision fatigue throughout the day or even the week. That's what can make it so unpredictably maddening. Just when you got to make that big decision of the day, you feel the energy drain from your being. Or just when you need to have a difficult conversation, the fog seems to roll in and slows down your thinking. And by the time you even go shopping for groceries, you ever stand up there and look at the shelves, kind of unable to make those quick choices about toothpaste or cereal. Now, physiologically, you experience decision fatigue because your body's level of blood glucose or sugar energy becomes depleted. Your body is powered by the blood glucose your intestines produce based on the food you eat every day. Your brain consumes about 20% of this glucose in order to think and function. But here's the thing. Every decision you make consumes a certain amount of this sugar energy. And in just going through, say, 50 emails and texts and Slack messages you wake up to every morning, you're making more than 50 decisions, aren't you? Do I read it or don't I read it? Does it require me to respond? And if it does, if so, how? Is it any wonder then that the energy you felt when you first got up after something like that has been a bit depleted before you've really even begun the workday? Now, you may be thinking, hey, all this makes sense, but you don't know my work environment or my boss. She's a morning person, and I'm not. She comes at us with big decisions to make before I've even finished my first cup of coffee. Or you might say, I just don't get the time to think. In my office, everyone is expected to make instantaneous decisions. Geez, if I stop to consider the issues, people are going to wonder what's wrong with me. Or you might laugh and say, of course you can do this. You work for yourself. You have total control. The rest of us are working at the mercy of the bosses we report to. Now, I won't try to defend this last one, other than to say that most self-employed people I know joke that they work half-time or 12 hours a day. Now, we also have to acknowledge how the workplace has changed. Over the past 20 years, much of the traditional 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. routine has given way to flexible hours, allowing us to enjoy more life balance if we take it. The focus on tasks has given way to more of a focus on outcome, hasn't it? Much of our daily communication is now dominated by digital technology. In many ways, we have more freedom in the way that we live and we work and frankly, that we can make decisions. But in other ways, we feel more limited. We may have more flexibility in our official work hours, but the boss still expects us to respond to messages almost immediately. After all, that's what smartphones are for, aren't they? Communication has also become more transactional. Now, for many everyday tasks, this is perfectly acceptable and frankly, even welcome. But how many times have you thought, should we try to resolve this over 20 texts or emails, or maybe I should just pick up the phone and make a phone call? But when you call, you end up leaving a message most of the time because the other person never answers their phone, right? All of this evolution has brought forth the era of the expectation of never-ending access. If your boss has a quick question, chances are he can text you while you're on vacation in someplace. This, in turn, is having an incalculable impact on your stress and everyone else's stress as well. And it all ties back to the number of decisions you're forced to make every single day. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Make fewer decisions. That's what the best decision makers do. The formula is simple. Make fewer decisions. And when you make fewer decisions, you have more sugar energy to focus on the decisions that really count. So, how do the best thinkers do this? Well, listen to the next week's video, and I'll share one of their most essential secrets. I'm Bob Wendover.